Hi, gang. Hi, gang. Hi there, gang. Hi, gang. Happy New Year. Happy 2019. You know, the new year is a great time to assess and think and improve and appreciate because I really enjoyed 2018. You know, and as crazy as the world can seem, it's you don't want the crazy people to take away your ability to enjoy your life. And if you think about, like, just take my life, and I'm only talking about my life because I know it because it's my life. But we had another child in 2018. We moved to a really great neighborhood with people that are awesome neighbors. Like I feel like the live streams are getting better. This is the first New Year's. I'll show you a picture. I posted this yesterday on Instagram. That's me and Amy and Charlie. Charlie's a little freaked out by 2019 already, but that's the first time in 7 years that I've had a New Year's with my now wife. We've been together 7 years where I didn't have to work. You know, and it is work. I love comedy, but it's like Amy was almost like a military wife in a lot of ways, where Thanksgiving gone, Christmas gone, New Year's gone, because those were always big. Those were always big nights for people to go out and have and want comedy and stuff. So that's why you know, comedians are almost like cops or military or something, where there's no holidays for us. And the fact that the fact that you guys and this community we've made, and the beauty of live streaming and the beauty of just all of it, and just being able to self-produce specials and all that. I got to be with my wife for the first time. She came with me to a New Year's show a couple times, but it was always more about me than her. And that gets a little tedious. That's one thing that oh. That's one thing about entertainers, male entertainers, that is so unnatural, is so much of life has to be about you and not the woman. And that's not instinctively right. It doesn't feel right, where it's like, well, you know, my needs, you know. And so I'm glad that I found a way to get around that. And yeah, I'm going to show you guys some pictures. This isn't going to be a super long stream. I'm very grateful that you guys missed the stream. You know, people were like, when are you going to stream? You know, for New Year's Eve. And I'm like, oh, I'm taking this one with my fam. But I felt like you guys really appreciate these, so I didn't want to miss out on too many days. We're going to talk about Louis C.K. We're going to talk about what I'm working on in my life for 2019 and just life itself. Like, for me, it's about being able to complete tasks around the house, like things that a lot of people take for granted. I have to really work at, and I've gotten better already at it, because I think I've isolated some of my personality traits that hinder my ability of doing stuff like that. So let's just get into it. Louis C.K. was so funny. I was just listening to C.K. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the future and, you know, our plans, what we're going to do to make life better and safer. Here's the thing, the prediction for war or civil collapse, based on our current monetary problems, our current immigration problems, all the problems. You know, in like 15 years, we're facing some real horror potentially. And that's the age my children would be in war. So I take a lot of these things very seriously, you know, and I identify what works and what doesn't. And I'm not going to stay in that dopamine, like, lazy river of just mocking the left with sarcasm and thinking that does anything. Because not only does it not do anything, all it is for is yourself. All it's for is, like, so you feel better, like you're doing something, but you're doing nothing. And the stakes for me are so high because of my kids. Like my sons legitimately could be drafted into a war that the seeds are being planted right now and have been for decades. And the more people don't address these issues, like I can tell Stefan Molyneux at this point is just like, yeah, we're past the Rubicon, you know. Now it's about making your plans, figuring out how to survive it, because you know, I'm not trying to be. This isn't depressing. This isn't negative. This is like what life is. We're experiencing incredible peace and prosperity right now, and relative freedom compared to a lot of the world. Like the Islamic world still has slavery right now, a lot of it. And but we all see what's coming. You know, it's within just a couple of years, the interest on our debt will be more than Medicaid, and in 5 years, it'll be more than the defense budget. And you got to understand that, like, the kids growing up right now are going to be so angry. They're either going to be on drugs and hormones and satisfied in their mom's basements or whatever, but when they can't steal money from people anymore through taxes, when they can't print free money, when our credit's gone, when people realize that you can't just print money forever, it's going to explode. And it's going to, that's how things happen. It's like slow for a while, and then when things change, it changes. Like, look at Portland, Oregon. It's like, look at how quickly that city went to hell. That city used to be awesome. And now it's just hell, you know? And, all right. Let's not look at Portland. Oh, I know. How are you guys? JFK Jr., this is going pretty fast. Over 2,000 people already. Thank you for all the kind words. Oh, Jamie Deluxe, what up, homie? Golden bullets. I'm telling you, the most valuable thing in the world is skills and community. I've assessed the situation. It's in faith, because things are going to get very, very dark. And if you don't believe in good and evil, it's like nihilists won't be able to survive. Nihilism is very successful in this propped up fake world that we have right now, because it's a quality that the people in control really, really like when they're printing fake money and taking the future of the next generation away for your pleasures, your brave new world. But when things become real again, when you know, we don't have a pyramid with an all-seeing eye on the back of our money with no value anymore, nihilism is one of the worst traits you can have, because people die of shame. It's just like the movie The Edge. It's like people in the wilderness will die of shame. They'll start feeling guilt and shame that they got themselves into a situation, and they'll sit down and they'll die. And when you look at it right now, because I was thinking about who's doing it. You know, I always think about that stuff. Everybody does. You know, you're always trying to assign blame. And I'm like, well, okay, who are we not allowed to make fun of? Like, who gets really angry when you make fun of them? And I'm like, well, the Jews, there's always pushback, but there's also something called Islamophobia, and you can't make fun of black women, and you can't make fun of gay people, and you can't make fun of, and then the list started getting so long, and I started looking up student ethnic pride events, and the Chinese have clubs, the Asians have clubs, the Jews have Hillel and all this stuff, and Puerto Ricans and blacks and gays and trans and everybody you can think of except white males. So it's not who's in control, who are you not allowed to mock, because, you know, you get pushback from mocking Jews, but same with Muslims. Are they the same group? It's who is not allowed to have any heritage. Who's not allowed to define their group, and it's one group only. It's white, heterosexual males. Because, you know, you have feminism, you have all these idiot feminist groups parading, and there's white women there, and then you have gay white males or trans or any of these perversions. They're allowed to have groups. It's one group. And why is that? It's because 80% of the taxes in America are paid for by white straight males. And as I was consuming the pig that I ate yesterday, I realized why straight white males have to be treated with such shame. You know, we're still talking about slavery in America that was ended 150 years ago by straight white males. There's still slavery right now in the Islamic world, right now. Like, the Islamic world was and is the hub of all slavery. It's not even close. You can buy a human being in a few Muslim countries right now for a few $100s. Like open air slave trade right now, black people, whatever, you know? And so why do they make it so white males are responsible for the world's problems? Because you have to set up a story that allows you to steal and to kill people. And it isn't the story about, you know, demonizing and hate and ethnophobia and xenophobia. Who's the only group that is given so much shame and so much blame for evils of this world that they're not in control of it all? It's one group only. It's not who is in control. It's who is being set up for the fall. And before I shot this pig, and I'll show you a little rundown of this. And that's why you can't pick a demographic and say, oh, it's the Jews, it's the Jesuits, it's the Chinese, it's it's the dog that isn't barking. Like, who isn't allowed to say, we have a heritage, we have pride, we have a community, we have in-group preference, we only shop with each other, Koreans, they can live their whole lives in America and not even learn English. It's fine. Name a group. There isn't one. So the other day, I'm not going to play the video because I know people get freaked out, and I understand it's an intense thing to kill an animal. I think it's more intense to kill a domestic animal than a wild animal in a hunt, because in a hunt there's the cat and mouse and you're like trying to get each other and you're trying to find. That's just killing. Like what I did right there is just slaughter. And it's necessary for eating. You know, I've gotten a lot of heat from vegans for my clip I put up about my thoughts on war and killing and stuff. And they're like, I have to unsubscribe from you. Not obviously, I don't care at all. If I cared about what people thought, I would have censored myself a long time before talking about the emotions and the cycles of life with killing the food you eat. I think it's actually very ethical and very moral. At some point in your life, you have to feel the weight of slaughter. And you have to see how the quickest kill in the world, I shot him right through the brain. He never saw it coming. It still takes a minute. They're out cold, but they still it's like they're running. It's a ghost run, you know? And I thought about, because right before I did it, I was like, pigs are dicks, right? I said that to my buddy, and they're like, yeah. They're like, oh, they'll like eat people. They'll like eat dead bodies. Like wild hogs will eat babies. And I'm like, so they're bad, right? They're like bad. And they're like, oh yeah, they're real vicious. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's like, I almost had to morally put down the pig before I could take its life. And I'm seeing a lot of that with one demographic in one country right now. Because the powers that be, what they want to do is keep people tribal and fighting as they steal from the mark. It's a scam. It's just basic street scams. And so the vegans were like, I'm unsubscribing from you. I was a fan of your comedy, but obviously you don't understand that you don't have to kill to eat and you're cruel and all that. I'm like, so do you not kill carrots? Do you understand how many rabbits die when they harvest anything with those giant farms? Like everything you eat is death. When you wash your hands, that's a genocide of bacteria. Bacteria are living organisms. You know, when you weed your garden. That's discriminatory genocide based on the immutable characteristics of a weed. That's what life is. And so the people that think they can avoid it with just nonsense, and to them, they're not killers. They're the good ones, and the people that actually have to go through the emotions of the pig. And then I'm looking at this pig yesterday. So that's the bullet hole, and he's got an apple in his mouth, and we're eating it. It's delicious. And you know, this is my buddies. They're cooking it. There's it's funny, like there's different ethnic and cultural differences with how you roast pigs, and everybody's real passionate about it. You know, you got the Samoans and their banana leaves, and you got some dudes that you think you got to bury it with like charcoal and all this stuff, and other dudes are like, nah, it's about this certain type of coal and blah blah. So you know, the pig roast is a very cultural thing where because it takes a long time, and that's why I love fires, and that's why I love pig roasts and stuff like that, or like making maple syrup. You gotta boil that shit for days, right? Because while you're doing that, you're just hanging out and talking, and that's how you build your culture and your community. You know, the microwave world, the microwave oven world is one reason why you don't get to pass down skills, or you don't get to have pride in your heritage and what your grandfather did, and when he'd reminisce about his grandfather and all that. That comes from the cooking of food a lot of times. And then, you know, we're in my buddy's shop right down the street. These are our neighbors. We can walk to each other's place. And Amy was like pumped for me. She doesn't eat pigs, but she was proud of me that because she knew it wasn't going to be easy for me. But when I thought about killing the pig, but it got a lot easier. Like the next one will be easier, and the next one will be easier than that. And because like chickens, I have no problem killing, because to me they're idiots and they're savage. You know, they're like little dinosaurs. They're like little. They're funny and stuff, but they don't have any intellect, and they'll scratch at you and poke at you. But like, I had to tell myself that pigs would hurt me, or they're like, you know, they're mean, or they're vicious, and then I could put them down. So when you logically understand that white people are not responsible for slavery, white people in America no white person alive owns a slave. White males statistically aren't these like rapey, like crime committing, like you can't judge. That's why I try and stay away from demographic condemnation, because the individual is what you have a right to judge. Like you have a right to judge a slave owner. You have a right to judge a guy who profits off selling humans. And right now there's more slaves in the world than in 1850. But these people don't actually care about helping black slaves. You know, that's why they're focused on 20 generations ago. They're focused on demonizing a group of people so they can be stolen from and eventually slaughtered. You don't put hundreds of billions of dollars into media and Hollywood and print and all this stuff, creating a narrative that white males ruin the world, unless you're planning a pig roast. And so that's why community is so important, and skills are so important, and a lack of artificial shame, this forced shame. Shame's a way that you control slaves. When you read up on like how slaves were maintained, or like how people were held down and how empires worked and stuff. Empires aren't even profitable, by the way. Empires are why nations fail. Empires become an ego, almost sporting event for the elite, so that they can just put flags everywhere. You don't make money on empires. You know, the fact Rome was all the way to almost Ireland is why they fell. And then they had to hire people to defend all of it who weren't Roman, and yada, yada, yada. So it's just something to think about. And I don't think there's any way to avoid the conflict that's coming in the future, because people are just not willing for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe they don't love their children enough. And I know that sounds like a really intense thing to say, but like, if you love your kids, how can you not try and find the truth? Because the truth is the only way you can prepare for the truth. If you like play these games and hide from reality, and you realize that that will cause a war that your children will die in, I mean, you don't love your kids. And that's why I'm like, I might be wrong, but I'm not lying. It's like my strategies might be bad. I may be off on the years that it happens. Something will resolve. I don't know. But from my perspective, I think statistically, the odds that we have an extremely life-destroying event in the country I live in the next 30 years is almost 100%. Raising the debt ceiling every few years, does that help people sleep at night? Like, oh, well, we'll just raise the debt ceiling. Well, what is the debt ceiling then? Oh, it's the thing that we can't pass because that's the most we'll spend. It's like, so then raising the debt ceiling is what then? If you don't respect what a debt ceiling is, then what is the point of having it? And then they're like, oh, well, you're a bigot. And you're like, buddy, it's not going to work on me.